I think it's because I knew the priests at the parish I attended as a little kid and through grammar school. And as it turns out, the priests and brothers who ran the high school I attended were also resurrectionists. There might have been 18 or 20 of them in the high school. I liked the way they interacted, and they knew each other. And because I lived in the neighborhood, sometimes during the summer I would ride my bike past the school and past their residence, and I'd see them sitting on park benches in the garden. They were all dressed in black trousers and white shirts. Gee, I had never seen that during the school year. They always had the cassock or the soutane. And eventually I became an usher when I was in high school, I became an usher in a movie theater. And I'd see them come, and they always came in twos or threes to these kinds of events, and I said, I want to be that. Oh, my average day there was wonderful. I'd get up in the morning, and while I was reciting my morning prayer, I would say that alone in my quarters. I'd have the coffee brewing. And roughly about the time I finished my morning prayer, a little bit of a meditation, the coffee was ready. I'd drink my coffee. Back then, I was a pipe smoker. I'd smoke my pipe and sort of catch up with the religious news online. And I would head for class, usually around 10:15 or 10:30 in the morning. So it was a very pleasant day. And I taught my classes, and I was back home usually, not always, but usually around 2:30. So it was a magnificent day. And that was Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I remained at home and were preparation days. I was on several committees at the university, so that would eat up certain amounts of time. And I also had the pleasure of being an advisor to a fraternity of young men. And so I would see them maybe once or twice a month in the evening. It may be your vocation to be a diocesan priest, but I would point out that religious life can be considerably different. Now that the numbers have thinned out across the board for religious and diocesan priests, the similarities maybe are greater than they would have been some time ago. But basically, religious live in community. There's a brotherhood, there's a camaraderie, there's an affinity for each other that is absolutely not repeatable. I observe as provincial how regularly they try to get together for some kind of community event, perhaps a monthly retreat, perhaps a weekly dinner out at some restaurant or in one of the parish houses, in one of the rectories, so that the guys could get together and share a bit of their life. If one of them is a teacher or a university professor, and one of them is a hospital chaplain, and one of them is a parish priest, and they're living together or they're coming together to share community, each of them brings a completely different and a non-competitive gift to the whole, to the community. It's really, truly beautiful. It's really difficult from inside to say how it is that we differ from, say, other religious orders or priests. However, I have a sense from the sorts of comments that I hear from people all the time, and particularly now as provincial. They are sometimes not specific, but they are consistent in saying, Father Jane, it is so wonderful for us to have resurrectionists. You are so different in the way that you preach, the way you teach, the way that you regard us. Now, because I'm one of them, it's difficult for me to see how different am I exactly, and how different are we precisely from, say, the Jesuits or the Franciscans. But the people notice and they remark. How do we work with the lay people? Sure. Most of all, trying to make sure that we're following whatever guidelines there are, and especially since Vatican II, of having the laity properly involved in parish councils and in administering the parish and making recommendations and welcoming other laypersons into the community, having ministries of healing and bereavement committees, liturgical committees, servers groups. In some parishes, the older parishes even continue to have holy name societies and altar and rosary sodalities and organizations like that. But in many ways, to be a resurrectionist is to have your hand and your heart engaged with the laity. I watch my brother and my sister and their children and their grandchildren and so forth, and what a magnificent privilege it is to live that kind of life. But then, ironically, I don't particularly miss marriage. I don't know whether any woman would have me. Uh, and so, it's a contradiction in terms. But overall, I cannot imagine a better, more fulfilling life than the one that I've been privileged to lead as a resurrectionist priest. If God is calling you, pay attention. Don't be afraid. If the Lord is calling you, you will never regret saying yes. I mean it.